Hi, folks. Welcome to another 10 Talk. I'm excited today. Brandon Thornton is going to chat with us about his great ideas for remote mathematics instruction. Brandon is an English language arts and math special education teacher at Bloomington High School. And so he's teaching in a self-contained classroom, but his ideas and kind of his lessons learned during this very interesting season apply across the board. So we're excited, Brandon. My name's Nancy Latham. I am at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And so Brandon, take it away. I'm excited to hear these ideas, especially, not that I have anything against high schoolers. I love them, but I'm glad there are folks like you that really love them because I'm excited to hear these ideas.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. For those who have the privilege of teaching math or teaching freshmen, you probably know that we are public enemy number one. Oftentimes, students in math already see you as an enemy, and they also feel like math is something they can't do. And I think that's been exemplified ever since we entered quarantine. My school, just for some background, we were remote starting last March, and we are just now actually getting kids in twice a week. This is week 3. So everything I'm sharing can be done without you even, if you're in a position where you haven't met the kids, this is for you. And if you're in a position where the kids are there twice a week, this is also for you.
Perfect.
So, I've kind of titled it Build Your Army because this is kind of the purpose of, I think math teachers need to repurpose ourselves as relationships first. But that's not always practical, right? Because we've lost a lot of teaching time with the coronavirus. And so a lot of these activities are math related, but they also focus on building relationships. So I chose Army because if you read Harry Potter, someone was Army, and I'm a BTS fan, which is also called the Army. And BTS and Elvis are able to get followers without really giving too much of themselves. I think that's our goal as teachers, right? To get people to follow us, to do the things we ask them to do without burning ourselves out. Because as we know, teaching on Zoom has its challenges, and teaching math on Zoom has its challenges. So I won't waste any time introducing myself since that was already done by Nancy. So I'll just jump into what we should learn today. So hopefully you leave with some ready to use engagement resources. The links will be provided with you at a later time, but these are things you can take and try tomorrow in your classroom. Think of it as a free teacher pay teachers, but you don't have to say anything. And I also want you to leave with strategies to kind of maximize not only self-care for your students, but for you as well. Because again, at least in my school, they don't have to have their cameras on. And so for math, we need like nonverbal cues and their facial expressions to know, should we continue or should we reteach? It's not really happening. And so the only way to know is to get kids to talk more. And that's what these activities are designed to do.
I love that, Brandon. That is so true. I was just talking the other day with somebody about formative assessment it has been turned upside down. Doing those pulse checks is just not the same when you're talking to a glass wall. It's so different. I'm excited to see these because it really is hard. With college students, it's hard.
And with high schoolers, it's hard too because they already feel like a lot of the experiences that they rely on to get them to come to school was ripped from them. So, and now you're asking me to do math? So, there is something that you can do if you are a teacher who has more than, I know most classes are like half an hour now maybe to limit screen time. If you have more than that, I'd recommend doing the 2-word check-in. I get an hour Monday through Thursday with my students. And so we do a 2-word check-in in the Zoom chat, and then I break it up in the breakout rooms based on those words, and they can share those words. Now, I'm in self-contained math, so I only have 12 students. I can do that. It's okay if you have a class of 30, maybe you can just set your chat to everyone, and everyone can see those 2 words. Because we've been a part of PD where we do an icebreaker, and maybe you don't get to share what you said, but knowing that you were at least got a chance to participate is enough. So it's okay if you can't connect with every kid, maybe keep track of the kids you check in with, but make sure that's consistent. I did it for a week and then stopped doing it, and kids started asking about it. We're not doing the 2-word check-in. because that's kind of their chance to reset. And I'll show you more on that, the brain research behind that, but they need that time to kind of regulate some emotions. And if you start off with math, they're already putting you on mute. So this is something you can do starting tomorrow. I kind of already talked about BTS and why I chose Army. So I'll let you peruse it on your own time. But let's talk about the two-word check-in. This is actually grounded on research from Dr. Perry, and we'll link some of his works later on. But this idea of forming relationships, it used to be, right, we were taught just be nice to your kids and check in on them. And that's not enough as a math teacher, because unfortunately we are already someone who could be traumatic to them. The fact that math trauma and math anxiety are research terms is already pretty telling. It's not our fault, but we are on the front lines, and so we kind of have to swoop in and give them opportunities to unpack that trauma and feel confident. So what I'm going to show you right now kind of gives you a visual of what that looks like. In order for a kid to be engaged in the things you are trying to do, you first need to regulate them. So that two-word check-in is a quick way to do it. You can also tell kids to close their eyes, put both feet in the ground, and focus on something they can hear or smell or see if you have their eyes open. And that's just a way to get them to be ready for whatever you're going to show to them. Here's why it's important, because you want to get to the reasoning part, right? You want them to do a task, but if they come in already dysregulated, and because of the coronavirus, we are all dysregulated at all times, all of us. Right now, I'm dysregulated. So you want to make sure you provide space for them to temporarily do that. Then they can relate to what you're trying to say, and then they can reason on their own or in groups.
I think, Brandon, that's huge, because the early childhood person in me knows that we've always known that those 3 steps were you had to do that all the time with young children, but I think we forget it as they get older.
Absolutely, because we think, oh, they made it to us, so obviously they're experts in self-regulation.
Right.
That's not true.
Yeah.
It's just not true. We don't have kids that we can't see their face, so we can't read facial expression. And sometimes they might be lying down on your Zoom call, or you're sharing your screen, so they're not seeing your face. So all they can hear is your tone of voice and the words you say, and it might be very triggering. Here is a math example. You're saying math, 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 and they're thinking, I'm not safe, because they have had a prior experience where whatever you're saying, such as, hey, let's talk, we need to talk. They're thinking all of these things now, just by using those harmless words. Something that I've learned to start doing from a training that I went was stop asking, do you need help? And we often do that. We see someone's not working on that Google Doc, and do you need help? What do you, please ask for help. How can I help? And do you need help is already putting pressure by saying you're not doing enough. You have demonstrated a deficit. So instead, what you can say is, do you feel supported? Kids are less likely to ignore you in the chat if you ask, do you feel supported? How can I support you? It's such a much better way to get to that relate portion of this whole process. So, but you're not here for all of that, right? You're here for the resources. We're getting there. This is part of my research I'm doing as a doctoral student. I'm trying to get kids out of the learning pit. Online, a lot of kids are staying down here with, I'm confused, and so I'm just gonna log out or put my head down. And we kind of want them to struggle through things so they can finally feel empowered. And that's the best way to combat these math anxieties. And you might be thinking, it's impossible. I can't even see kids on my screen. I know they're cheating, they're Googling things. Here's what you can do. We can do a partner practice. If you teach math, pretty much what it is you're giving kids different questions, and they have the same answers. And I know that might seem like, okay, your kids, our kids at least, a lot of students don't really realize that you can have the same solution with different problems. And so this is very powerful, because now they have each other to check in on, and you're setting them up with scripts to use, coaching scripts. I got this. What did you get? Oh, let me see your screen. I think you messed up here. So this works best in a breakout room. If you're wanting artifacts on what it could look like, I have artifacts. This is one from Slopes. These are students working through it. And I just made a big giant slide where I can monitor what kids are doing. Here's a really good example. Hopefully you can still see the screen, but Sabrina and Peter, which are fake names, did it 2 different ways and they got the same answer. And now they can have a powerful conversation on there's 2 ways to write slope-intercept form. Even though you've taught it 100 times that there's 2 ways, it makes more sense coming from another student. And so
I love the way this is retained too for you later.
Absolutely.
So you can really see some progress before you just go on tomorrow with what you were going to do. You can see issues of struggle, and you can hear the coaching as you were listening, but you can see, you know.
That's the nice part. You can pop in and hear kids saying things. They're like, oh, I didn't teach it that way, but that's brilliant. And you're learning from the kids. And they do talk. You'd be surprised. Some of them don't, but they're still typing. And so you can at least trust that they're seeing someone else work through a problem. So I really like that. I've given you a folder with tons of partner practices covering over tons of different content areas. Just looking at time. Okay, so last thing I want to show you is just a color by numbers. And this is something that you can have projected while kids are working. Pretty much what it is they're working on a math problem, and then the number corresponds to coloring. And we know the research behind coloring. It's a really nice way to combine that regulate and relate stages of the sequence of engagement. And they're still doing math. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you today. I'm going to link all the resources, but I wanted you to have the background on why it's important based off of the brain-based learning that we know.
Oh, I love these resources. I'm sitting here thinking, like, how can I use this for college students? I mean, I've gotten very addicted to Google Slides in the moment, the way you were showing how you were using those, just even with to get college students contributing to that, and they see their contribution. You know, that I think there's something engaging about that. That they see everybody contributing, and I think that's a good. I love these ideas. They're terrific. We are going to have all of Brandon's, and he has been so willing and sharing his own templates and stuff like that. And so this is great. We're going to have these in the top 10 list that will accompany Brandon's 10 talks. So be sure and click on both so that you can get those. And even nice as you're listening, you'll have those to click on. And I think we're even going to throw some of your brain-based research in there as well, Brandon. Some of the things you were really zeroing in on would be good as well. So thanks. I appreciate it, Brandon. Thank you.
Thank you.